Welcome back. Ola CEO Bhavish Aggarwal and comedian Kunal Kamra's ugly spat on social media has left mostly someone saying something, but how must one really read it all? Is it the failure of a homegrown brand to provide services promised to customers, though praised highly for attempting to scale EV companies in India? Or is it an overreaction to public criticism, or criticism in public for that matter, or in between all of this? Well, it started with Kunal Kamra posting a picture of Ola Electric scooters gathering dust outside their dealership, presumably while waiting to be serviced. In his response, Bhavish Aggarwal accused the comedian of taking money to share critical posts against the company, that is, paid tweets. Kunal Kamra then went on the offensive and called the Ola CEO an arrogant and substandard individual, to which Bhavish Aggarwal asked the comedian to work at an Ola Electric service center, claiming that he would pay him better than whatever his flop shows pay, or the money he would be getting for putting this tweet out. The war of words continued even as Bhavish Aggarwal failed to acknowledge the multiple complaints raised against Ola scooters by harried customers. The argument took a new turn when social media influencer Aditya Shah revealed that Ola Electric had recently approached him for a paid promotion on Twitter, fueling the discussion on the company's marketing strategies, and not just this companies across the sphere. While Kamra's post and the paid promotion claims garnered attention, some industry voices have also shown massive support for Bhavish Aggarwal and the challenges he faces in scaling an EV company in India. Not just this, but politics over Ola's poor customer services with its electric scooters has also come in, with several political parties, including Congress in Kerala, making some allegations about how the homegrown EV company by the name of Ather Energy doesn't get the same kind of a support that Ola does. Well, how should one really look into all of these things? I'm being joined at this point by Sanjay Ghare, who's a CEO for Vervotech, and Bejon Misra, who's a consumer activist. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. I'm very sure both of you know what's been happening over the last 48 hours, or roughly so, since yesterday. Now, tell me, Mr. Bejon Misra, how do you look at this? Is this a response gone wrong? Is this a criticism gone wrong? Or is this just something totally different? How do you look at it? Bejon Misra, if you can hear me. Well, I think Bejon Misra is not able to hear us. But Sanjay Ghare, how do you look at what's unfolded?
Sneha, good evening, everyone. I think I look at it, from two different aspects. The one is, what has happened, and second is how Bhavish has reacted to it. So I think, going after wealth creators and job creators should not be encouraged in this country, where the job is the real need. And if you have, seen in the past also, Adani and Hindenburg issue is another example. So as soon as there is anything reported against our business houses, wealth creators, we start pulling them down as the people of this country. So when our prime minister says that, I worry for wealth creators as much as I do for laborers, but that's not reflected in the public sentiment. So I think that's the first point. You have to understand, an academy by Jews, they have also faced the similar heat. They came up with ideas which were the need of an time during the pandemic. And eventually, ideas also became, I would say obsolete. And these, you cannot hold these entrepreneurs accountable for solving a problem or even for trying to solve the problem. So coming to Ola, it's the fact.
Okay,
The
Sanjay
Ola
Ghere, before you go
has
to the next point, since you have made this point, since Sanjay Ghare, since you've made this point, before you go to your next point, let me just ask you something. What do you mean by going after these people? Do you see the statement that Kunal Kamra made? Do you see going after Bhavish Aggarwal, is that what you're saying? To put in a photograph of scooters that have been put outside the service centers and posting it, saying these are, used by people who are working hard through the day, they don't earn much, and putting that photograph out, do you call that going after? And also, I would strongly object to you clubbing with what's happened with Ola in this particular case about how the ugly spat happened to what would have happened with Unacademy or Byju's. I think let's keep this very different. The what's happened in these cases are very different. I do not think all of them can be clubbed in together. Wealth creators are welcome, but then there is a whole set of laws and regulations that need to be followed. In the other cases, that was not followed. So let's just stick to what's unfolded here. In this
Yeah, yeah.
particular context, why are you saying a simple post went after Bhavish Aggarwal?
Sneha, if you heard, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not really, talking about what Kunal Kamra has said. I was trying to highlight because, if what Kunal Kamra has said, if how people are taking it, it really matters to it, right? So what I was trying to highlight is we should not be really, things like this encouraged in the country because, like, I was trying to quote, our honorable Prime
What should
Minister.
not be encouraged? Help me understand. What should not be encouraged?
Yeah. So
People criticizing, like Kunal Kamra going and criticizing what he did, should not be encouraged. Is that what you're saying? Did he
yeah,
say that something that was not supposed to be? Is criticism not to be encouraged? What is not to be encouraged? Help me understand.
absolutely. So so the facts are facts, right? So Ola's monthly complaints have reached 80K, 80,000 a month is the reality. They have dropped from 34% to 31% in the market share is the reality. It's a free market. If enterprise is not doing well and has operational issues, the open market will punish it. But in my opinion, creators picking up the fight on the internet for monetary benefits or social media engagement, whatever. I'm saying this should be looked in isolation. These are the things which should not be encouraged. Products, it's an open market. The customers, consumer will punish when things go wrong. So that's my, one side of things, Neha.
Okay, all right. I think I also have Bejon Misra, and you've made an important point. There's another aspect, and that's what you've brought out at this point. That's financial gains, vested interests for which somebody may post on social media. We'll come to that in a bit. But Bejon Misra, how do you look at what's unfolded between two public figures, one a comedian, one Ola CEO? The comedian had posted a photograph saying, all these are just languishing outside the service center with no attention. The complaints against the EV scooters have shot up to 80K, is what we are being told at this point. A panelist just made reference to that. But Bejon Misra, how do you look at what is unfolded?
Well, I always look at consumer complaints as, kind of a suggestion for improvement. I always look at that you should encourage complaints to come in. I do not understand why should, Ola take such an offense. I am not able to understand that. They are getting feedback which are realistic, which are factual, and they should take action on that. Rather than thanking the consumers for raising these kind of issues, they are trying to target them. They're trying to dissuade people from sharing their views in terms of how they feel about the product. How funny it is. And I don't understand what the regulators are trying to do. The regulators should also try to come in and question them that why so many complaints are coming, why you are not attending to them. If you are attending to them, then what has been the outcome or what has been the difference between earlier issues which were raised and after their intervention, what improvement has come. So it goes to show that the manufacturer is completely out of the loop. They are not consumer friendly at all. They need to be taken to task. Why are they bringing a product which is having so many complaints? And we must try to understand the root cause and resolve it. And government is trying to promote them. Government is trying to encourage eco-friendly equipments and gadgets. So, Sneha, how do you feel that such kind of an attitude will improve in terms of performance of such products? That goes to show that they are completely non-customer centric. They need to be made to feel that whatever they have earned, their return on their investment is going out of shape because they're not listening to the consumer. They should be listening to the consumer. They should be encouraging more and more, frank and
Sanjay Ghare, do you want to
forthright in.
respond to Bejon Misra? I mean, whatever the vested interests may be, as the allegations are, if there is a post which is being put up and if it is factually correct, why are people looking at the response as arrogant? Why give the opportunity to customers, possible future customers, to stakeholders as being arrogant? That's what many have called him out for being. Do you welcome the kind of response that he gave to the post?
Yeah, so absolutely, and I think Mr. Bejon Misra was really to the point that it is very important to give the attention to customer feedback, and which may be happening or maybe there are gaps. All that is a separate thing. To response what Bhavish has responded to Kunal, I don't think that post or that response really is to a consumer. It is a response to a content creator or an influencer, not to consumer. That's one thing, and I completely agree that founders, not Bhavish, isn't anyone, should not have engaged on a social media in such kind of fight, because you don't have really any control over those. Instead of go back and focus on your product, because let your product decide the narrative instead of trying to set it on a social media. Make your customers the exponents of your brand is the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Bejon Misra, very quickly, if I can have you in again. Bejon Misra, so, another aspect that has emerged out of this, one, apart from the attitude, is also what Bhavish Aggarwal alleged Kunal Kamra did, and that was a paid tweet. And then there is another user who comes up on social media and says that Ola reached out to him and other influencers to make social media posts in support of Ola. Now, when these back and forths happen, earlier you would have advertisements, you would have PRs, and now you have different forms of that with the social media opening up like this. There's also this whole thing of ethics and how to view social media. It just adds another dimension to all of this, to what seems to be a very ugly spat, but there are definitely other aspects to this as well.
I fully agree with you. The whole advertising arena has changed now. It's gone to social media. So there are influencers, there are celebrities who are trying to endorse products and mislead consumers. And then, of course, there are vested interests working. So the regulator, that is the Central Consumer Protection Authority, which is a part of the Department of Consumer Affairs, they have already intervened. They have brought in guidelines, how the influencers should work, what kind of ethics should be conducted. They are all in place. Now, my short point is, why should Ola get into these kind of controversies? If they are happy with what they are manufacturing,
right,
if they are strong with where they stand, then they should just ignore. My contention is, instead of
right,
getting into these kind of controversies and creating a kind of a hype in terms of attracting the consumers into all these kind of misleading tweets and misleading informations, they should come out with facts and figures. They should also make sure that they are seen in a credible manner. And my contention is, instead of trying to, wash your dirty linen in the public domain, they should be more interested in bringing in facts and figures which will improve their brand and improve the product in terms of its performance. They should spend more time into that rather than getting into these kind of unwanted, avoidable kind of, gimmicks of getting into these kind of debates. I mean, I am not in favor that such brands should behave in such an irresponsible manner. Instead of trying to address the issues of the consumers, instead of trying to understand
right,
what has been the root cause and why such, incidents are happening which are not safe, which is not safe for the consumers, they should come out with their corrective measures. They should just ignore
right,
these kind of tweets where they feel it is motivated. In case it is motivated, then they should appropriately bring the attention of the regulator into it and get them into investigation, that who are these influencers who are misleading the consumers. So the bottom line is, the brand has to work in an ethical manner, in a responsible manner, and ensure that there is no such kind of controversies coming into public domain.
Right. Sanjay Ghare, if I can get you in again, and the new age communication is manifold and often the messaging is so much more important. You may choose to respond, you may not choose to respond, and either ways that's going to give out a message. So in this context, if I can put out, you have the ugly spat that's happened between Bhavish Aggarwal and you've had between Kunal Kamra. That's for one, and then you obviously have an a response from Dipinder Goyal of the Zomato, who's been out there, who's gone out, done inspections. Apparently, he went to a mall in the uniform to do some deliveries, and then you have the mall respond to it. We are not taking sides here, but as it comes with communication, communication is king, customer is king, so on and so forth. There are huge lessons to learn possibly from what's unfolded on the social media this time as well.
Absolutely. And I think, if I look at this entire thing, what Kunal has said or what any influencer, wanted to say, there can be guidelines to do things, but you cannot really control. So, in my opinion, when any such things comes out, against any brand, we as a public should not respond very instantly, because as a nature we cannot consider every wealth creator or every wealthy person is bad. I'm not saying him right or wrong. We can always look at facts, and if the facts are, Ola has more complaints. So if we go by facts, is I think great. And secondly, any founder, any businessman should not respond like this. They can always respond with facts, figures, the complaints. There, it should go through the proper channel. A founder,
Right.
getting into ugly fight is again a very sad thing.
Right. I think there are so many dimensions to this, but thank you very much, Sanjay Ghare, as well as Bejon Misra, for joining us. It's unfortunate what's happened in the social media space, but the fact is social media is extremely provocative at so many ends. And at one point, you could have just covered up consumer responses. You could have just ducked it over, not responded to it directly. But social media pushes you to edges today that you cannot ignore. And how you respond possibly is hugely important. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us and adding perspective.
Thank you.